The training guys. All right, we're gonna be talking about liquid calories. Basically, it's like one of the main drivers for why people actually overconsume calories. So, liquid calories can really derail your fat loss progress without you even actually noticing. Unlike solid foods, liquids don't fill you up as much, meaning you're more than likely to overconsume calories without ever feeling satisfied. Going back to this example right here, this is not going to make you feel full, guys, like at all, right? Although this will literally aid in like the fat loss process because there's caffeine, it's a stimulant, to increase your heart rate, it's going to increase your temperature. That's going to facilitate a bit of growth. So there's strongly supporting the literature too that if you have a little bit of caffeine, it's really going to actually help you burn a little bit more fat than if you don't have caffeine. Okay, so the goal here is to limit, eliminate, or reduce high calorie drinks and replace them with more effective 0 calorie alternatives that support your fat loss option, such as like Coke Zero, these little meal drink, whatever things, flavored water, bubbly. So many good options here that is just as yummy, in my opinion, compared to these like very, very heavy, high sugar drinks. And it's not sugar that's bad for you guys. It's literally just calories that's you're gonna overconsume. You're not gonna feel full, and that's where a lot of, I guess, like gains will be disappeared per se. So, in terms of like why calories are detrimental to fat loss, it's simply because of the calorie intake. It's just very low in satiety, right? So, beverages such as like sugary sodas, juices, fancy coffee drinks, alcohol, it's just there's a lot of calories in there, guys. And so, these hidden calories just add up. There could be sugar spikes and cravings. Obviously, the sugar itself can potentially increase the amount of feeling of, you just really, really crave certain things, especially alcohol. Alcohol is one of the things where it's like people think that alcohol is not the best thing for fat loss. Well, it's the calories that's gonna make you fat, but also when you're like just having like 3, 4 shots in, you start to make not the best decisions, which then gets you to lead into overconsumption of calories. So, how to cut out liquid calories? Well, instead of just completely drinking, everything but water, which I find really, really boring, is just work with 0 calorie alternatives. Coke Zero is your friend. Go Diet Coke, all these great things. And there's obviously, this huge wave of like people on social media that's like, yeah, if you have aspartame, right? And so basically people are just like, yeah, you shouldn't have this, is really, really bad for you. Well, what else is also really, really bad for you? Like alcohol, right? But people are still consuming that. And it's the same people who are just like, oh yeah, like all these like sugary drinks are like terrible for you, but yet they're drinking alcohol, which kind of like doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it's actually, if you have a ton of aspartame/aspartame, is where it becomes an issue. It's like 26 cans worth of like aspartame. I don't know. I'm just saying both of them because people are, different ways of saying it. Um, right. So depending on like how much you drink, it's going to be detrimental. So if you just have like 1 or 2 a day, it's really not going to do anything for you. Like it's not going to negatively affect you at all. In fact, it's probably going to help support your fat loss journey, which is going to be like a healthier option. Honestly, if you look at the literature, you have to consume so much of that stuff for it to be potentially harmful for you. And so actionable tips, start by replacing one sugar drink. Maybe it's going to be your pumpkin spice latte, your frappuccino, like that kind of vibes with, or like maybe like a beer. Instead of having beer, have like a 0 calorie option, like sparkling water or like a black coffee or unsweetened tea, right? And so you can switch to black coffee. Obviously, if you enjoy it, like you can start by cutting out the sugar or cream part of it. Literally can save you a lot of calories there. You can reduce your alcohol consumption because obviously if you're drinking a lot of calories, the calorie in itself is one thing, but it's also when you're like drunk, this is where you start to make like not the best decisions around that too. So the next thing around fat loss is optimizing your sleep. It's literally so important for fat loss. Sleep is often overlooked in your weight loss journey, but it's so important to like regulate your hormones, metabolism, recovery. And when you don't get enough sleep, your body's ability to burn fat and control hunger is super impaired. It just makes it really, really hard for you to lose weight and you just don't feel good. You're just like tired all the time. So you can't make really the best decisions for your day. And so why is sleep so important for fat loss? Well, it regulates your hunger hormone. Literally, sleep affects the balance between your ghrelin, right, and your leptin. And these hormones control hunger and fullness, satiety. And so lack of sleep raises ghrelin, which makes you feel more hungry, and it lowers leptin, which reduces your feeling of fullness, your satiety, right? So if there's lower leptin, you literally feel less full, which then obviously you want to eat and overconsume calories. Number 2, improves fat loss. Studies show that if you actually have enough sleep, right, 7 to 9 hours, you tend to lose more fat, literally compared to those who are sleep deprived. right? And so when both groups are eating the same amount of calories, and one of the big reasons why is because if you're sleeping well, you have more energy. Your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is your non-actual exercise, you're walking, you're fidgeting, that increases, which then burns a little bit more calories throughout the day. Number three, it enhances workout performance and recovery. Sleep is literally one of the first things that we get our athletes doing at the UFC, prioritizing. In fact, like some of these guys train like 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. Some of them don't even train at all. But the main thing that we get them doing is because they're training so hard and eating really well, the biggest difference between like just a normal UFC fighter versus a freaking champion isn't like how hard they're training. Obviously, there's some, depends on like how big of the roster in. Like usually the top 50%, they're training super hard. So these people, these UFC fighters are training super hard. So it's not a matter of like how hard you're training, it's about how well you can recover at that point. And so sleep is one of the things that we really, really get our athletes doing at the UFC. And now for our clients, our athletes, we really, really try to get them sleeping as much as we can and maximizing their sleep as well. There's obviously supplementation around that aspect, but you need to be able to learn how to optimize your sleep for fat loss. So here's like the big takeaways for sleep. You want to set a consistent sleep routine. Like you probably heard this like a million times, sleep at the same time, but do you actually do this? And so if you can't sleep well, if you're staying up super late, obviously it's going to affect your sleep. So people have like alarms in the morning. For me as a dork, someone that really cares about the health and fitness, I have literally an alarm to go to sleep. And it just tells me that I need to wind down, put on a podcast, listen to some music really, read a book. And then I'm already like winding down. My room is getting more cool, which is going to create that more relaxing routine, which is basically step two. You want to develop more like a wind down routine. And it's just like a signal to your body that it's time to sleep, stuff that you could do is reading, meditation, stretch, can reduce your stress, obviously help you just get ready to go to sleep here. And so here are some actionable things that you can do, and it's quite important. Avoid screen times, right, for at least 30, 60 minutes before bed, as blue light from these devices can really interfere with your sleep hormones. Instead, read a book, listen to some music, do a guided meditation. Step number three, limit caffeine, right? Literally caffeine can stay in your system for 8 hours, disrupting your ability to fall asleep. So alcohol, while it might actually make you sleepy, it interferes with the deep sleep stages leading to poor quality sleep. So one of the things that we tracked at the UFC is simply like your REM sleep, like your deep sleep. So you could be in bed for like, oh man, like 9 hours, but you could really only be sleeping for like 5 hours. And so what are some things that you can do to actually increase that deep sleep, which is the most important part of your sleep? And so one of the big things is caffeine and alcohol. So what you can do is avoid caffeine in the afternoon and evenings, limit alcohol consumption, especially close to bedtime. If you crave something warm in the evening, try something herbal like a tea. And this is your final stops on sleep. Prioritizing sleep is so overlooked, but is insanely powerful for fat loss and just like life. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest indicators for like how long you're going to live. If you sleep lots, not as stress, this is going to help you live for a lot longer. So prioritize setting a consistent sleep schedule, create a relaxing bedtime routine, reduce your screen time, improves your metabolism, recovery, appetite control, and makes it easier to stick to your fat loss goals, guys. Stay tuned for the next training.